Okay, so good day everyone. So our topic is very interesting, no networking and API integration. Networking and API integration are fundamental aspect of modern software development, allowing applications to communicate with web services, exchange data, and provide users with dynamic real-time content. Real-time content. No? So in Android, no, development, networking is essential for fetching data from remote servers, sending user-generated content, and integrating third-party services. No? This module cover REST API concept, JSON parsing, popular networking libraries like Retrofit and Valley, and best practices for handling, syempre, yung permission and internet connectivity. Okay? So, to give us more details about the topic, let us all welcome our presenter. Go ahead.
Via integration. Let's take a look at networking first. Networking is a great way to connect your application with the world. Yes, before going straight into our topic, let's first try to find its necessity in your application. Networking is an essential aspect of modern application, allowing them to connect with servers, databases, APIs, and other applications across the globe. Efficient data exchange. Networking allows you to exchange data efficiently with browsers, databases, and other applications. APIs provide a modern approach for two or more disparate applications to communicate or talk to each other. Global reach. Through networking, the application meets with a global audience who can access its resources and services from anywhere in the world. Scalability. Networking supports the scalability of the application. Integration. Networking allows applications to integrate with third-party APIs. Now let's talk about the API integration, to what it is and its definition. An application programming interface, or an API, is a set of definitions and protocols through which applications communicate with each other. With API, your application or service can use the function provided by another application without needing to know how the other application is being implemented. APIs can also serve as an intermediary layer for data transfer between system applications, allowing businesses to open their application data and functionality to third-party developers, business partners, as well as internal departments within their organization. Now, what REST API and JSON parsing? Let's tackle first the REST API. REST API. A REST representational state transfer API application programming interface allows different applications to communicate with each other using standard HTTP methods like GET, POST, PUT, DELETE, and etc. Here's a simple example to explain how a REST API works. One is GET request, retrieving products. This request retrieves a list of all products in the store. When a client sends a GET request to the products endpoint, the server responds with a JSON array of products. Another function is POST request. This one is adding a new product. This request adds a new product to the store. The client sends a POST request with the product data in the body. This is the backend code for the example request body and also the example for response. Another function is PUT request, updating an existing product. This request updates the product with ID1. The client sends a PUT request with the updated product data in the body. This is the example request body backend code and also the example response. The last one is the delete request, deleting a product. This request deletes the product with ID1. The client sends a delete request to the endpoint. The example response would be, this is the backend code. These examples illustrate how a REST API uses standard HTTP methods to create, read, update, and delete, or CRUD, resources. Each request is sent to a specific endpoint, or URL, and the server responds with the appropriate data and often in JSON format. Now let's take a look about the JSON parsing. JSON, or JavaScript Object Notation, parsing is the process of converting a JSON string into a data structure that a programming language can work with. JSON is a lightweight data interchange format that's easy for humans to read and write and easy for machines to parse and generate. It's commonly used for transmitting data in web applications. Example of JSON string. This is the backend code. If you receive this JSON string in your application, you'll need to parse it to use the data. Here's how you might parse it in different programming languages. This is for JavaScript. This one is for the Python. Lastly would be for Java. In each example, the JSON.parse or JavaScript JSON.loads for Python and the JSON object or Java function is used to convert the JSON string into a native data structure, like an object or dictionary that the programming language can easily manipulate. Now let's talk about the retrofit and also Ballet for network calls. Let's tackle first retrofit. In the context of software and development, retrofit is a type of library used for making HTTP requests in Android and Java applications. It simplifies the process of connecting to RESTful or RESTful web services by providing a more convenient and efficient way to handle network operations. Key features of retrofit. 1. Simplified HTTP requests. Retrofit allows a developer to define HTTP operation, get, post, put, delete, and etc. as Java interface, making it easier to interact with web services. 2. Automatic JSON parsing. Retrofit can automatically convert JSON responses into Java objects, reducing the need for manual parsing. 3. Support for various HTTP clients. Retrofit supports multiple HTTP clients like OKHTTP, which can be used for network operation. Customizable and extensible. Developers can customize and extend retrofit's functionality using converters, interceptors, and authentication mechanisms. Example usage. Here's a simple example of how retrofit can be used in an Android application. The first step is define an interface for HTTP operation. This would be the backend code. Create a retrofit instance. This is the second step. Then the third one is create an API services. The last step would be make an HTTP request. This is the backend code for that. In this example, retrofit is used to define an interface for making a GET request to retrieve a list of products. The retrofit instance is configured with a base URL and a converter factory for JSON parsing. The API service is then created and used to make the HTTP request with callbacks to handle the response or failure. Now let's talk about the Ballet for network calls. Ballet is another library used for network operation in Android applications. It's developed by Google and provides a much simpler and more efficient way to handle network requests compared to other approaches. Key features of Ballet. simplified network requests. Bali makes it easy to send HTTP requests and handle responses, including caching and memory management. 2. Automatic request scheduling. Bali's managed request queues and prioritize requests, ensuring efficient use of network resources. 3 is built-in JSON parsing. Bali can automatically parse JSON responses into Java objects, reducing the need for manual parsing. 4, 4 would be image loading and caching. Bali provides built-in support for loading and caching images, which is useful for applications that display image from the web. Example usage. Here's a simple example of how to use Bali to make a network call in an Android application. First is add Bali to your project. Add the Bali library to your build.gradle file. This would be the backend code. Second step would be create a request queue. Create a request queue instance which is used to manage and execute network requests. This is the backend code for the request queue. The third step would be make a network request. Create a request to retrieve data from a URL. This is for the backend code of this. About the JSON request example, if you want to make a request to retrieve JSON data and automatically parse it, you can use the JSON object request. This would be the backend code for it. In this example, Bali is used to create a request queue, make a network request to retrieve data from a URL, and handle the response or error. The JSON object request is used to make a request for JSON data and automatically parse it into a JSON object. Now let's talk about handling permission and internet connectivity. Let's tackle first about the handling permission. Handling permission in the context of Android application refers to the process of managing and requesting permissions that the app needs in order to access certain features or data on the user's device. These permissions could include access to the camera, location, contacts, storage, and more. Properly handling permissions ensures that the app functions correctly while respecting users' privacy and security. Example for handling permission. Handling permission in Android. Declare permission in manifest. Add the required permission in the Android manifest.xml file. This would be the backend code for it. This is the backend code for the Java handling permission. Check for permission at runtime before using the camera. Check if the permission is granted. This would be the backend permission, backend code rather I mean. Then this is the backend code for the Java handling permission if showing request or the result. Now let's tackle about the internet connectivity. Internet connectivity refers to the ability of device such as computer, smartphone, or tablet to connect to the internet and access its resources. This connection enables the device to communicate with other devices, access web pages, and use online services, stream media, send emails, and perform many other activities that required an internet connection. Internet connectivity is the state of having access to the internet through various means such as wired connection, e.g. internet, wireless connection, or for example, Wi-Fi, or mobile data connections, example 4G and 5G. The step for internet connectivity would be the check and handle internet connectivity in an Android app. You can follow these steps. 1. Add permission in manifest. Declare the necessary permission to access the internet in the Android manifest.xml file. This would be the backend code for it. Next, check network connectivity. Uses the connectivity manager to check the current network status. This is for the Java code. The other one is For the Kotlin code, this is it, the backend code. Explanation 1. Add permission. Add the necessary permission, the internet and access network state, to the Android manifest.xml file. 2. Check network connectivity. Use the connectivity manager to check if the device is connected to the internet. In this example, the is connected to the internet method checks if the device has an active network connection. If the connection is available, it prints internet is connected. Otherwise, it prints no internet connection. That's it, guys. I hope you learned things about the networking and API integration again. Thank you and good evening, everyone.
REST is the most common communication standard between computers over the internet. What is it? Why is it so popular? Let's take a look. API stands for Application Programming Interface. It is a way for two computers to talk to each other. The common API standard used by most mobile and web applications to talk to the servers is called REST. It stands for Representational State Transfer. It is a mouthful. What does that mean? REST is not a specification. It is a loose set of rules that has been the common standard for building web APIs since the early 2000s. An API that follows the REST standard is called a RESTful API. Some real-life examples are Twilio, Stripe, and Google Maps. Let's look at the basics of REST. A RESTful API organizes resources into a set of unique URIs, or Uniform Resource Identifiers. The URIs differentiate different types of resources on a server. Here are some examples. The resources should be grouped by noun and not verb. An API to get all products should be /products and not /get all products. A client interacts with a resource by making a request to the endpoint for the resource over HTTP. The request has a very specific format as shown here. The line contains the URI for the resource we'd like to access. The URI is preceded by an HTTP verb, which tells the server what we want to do with the resource. A POST request means we want to create a new resource. A GET means we want to read the data about an existing resource. A PUT is for updating an existing resource. A DELETE is for removing an existing resource. You might have heard the acronym CRUD. This is what it stands for. In the body of these requests, there could be an optional HTTP request body that contains a custom payload of data, usually encoded in JSON. The server receives the request, processes it, and formats the result into a response. The first line of the response contains the HTTP status code to tell the client what happened to the request. Now, a well-implemented RESTful API returns proper HTTP status codes. The 200-level codes mean the request was successful. The 400-level codes mean something was wrong with our request. For example, the request contained incorrect syntax. At the 500 level, it means something went wrong at the server level. For example, the service was unavailable. A well-behaved client could choose to retry a failed request with a 500-level status code. We said could choose to retry because some actions are not idempotent, and those require extra care when retrying. When an API is idempotent, making multiple identical requests has the same effect as making a single request. This is usually not the case for a POST request to create a new resource. The response body is optional and could contain the data payload and is usually formatted in JSON. There's a critical attribute of REST that is worth discussing more. A REST implementation should be stateless. It means the two parties don't need to store any information about each other, and every request and response is independent from all others. This leads to web applications that are easy to scale and well-behaved. There are two final points to discuss to round out a well-behaved RESTful API. If an API endpoint returns a huge amount of data, use pagination. A common pagination scheme uses limit and offset as parameters. Here is an example. If they are not specified, the server should assume sensible default values. Lastly, versioning of an API is very important. Versioning allows an implementation to provide backward compatibility, so that if we introduce breaking changes from one version to another, consumers can get enough time to move to the next version. There are many ways to version an API. The most straightforward is to prefix the version before the resource on the URI, for instance, like this. RESTful API is simple and effective when applied sensibly. It may not be the best choice for all companies, but it is simple and good enough, and that's why it is so widely used. There are other popular API options like GraphQL and gRPC. We'll discuss those and compare them in separate videos. If you'd like to learn more about system design, check out our books and weekly newsletter. Please subscribe if you learned something new. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
We're already done. Okay, so our presenter mentioned about the REST API and JSON parsing, no? Okay, so as what I have, REST API stands for Representational State Transfer Application Programming Interface. It is a web service that allows application to interact with data stored on a server using HTTP request. No? REST APIs typically return data in a lightweight format called JSON or JavaScript Object Notation, which is to read and parse in Android applications. So JSON consists of a key value pairs that represent structured data. So let's say, for example, in coding, syempre JSON, open parenthesis, yung open natin, then ID is equal to 1. Let's say the name is Marmelo Abante, then email is marmelo.ptc.ed.ph, and so on and so forth. So this will be to extract and use this data in Android app. Developers use JSON parsing techniques. So JSON parsing in Android involves converting JSON data received from API into Java or Kotlin objects that can be used within an application. There are different methods for parsing JSON in Android. Siyempre, number one, using JSON object and JSON array classes. No? This is the manual way to parse JSON in Android. Pwede rin naman na using JSON as in jihad, na game, no? JSON or Google's JSON library. This library automatically maps JSON data to Java objects, or using Mushi, another popular JSON parsing library which offers better Kotlin support. So let's say for example, sa Java, yung G, yung game, JSON, tapos yung JSON is equal to new.json. So user is equal to JSON.from JSON, tas open parenthesis, pwedeng JSON string, comma, user.class, semicolon. So this will be by using libraries like JSON or Mushi reduces the complexity of handling JSON and improve efficiency. Now, we have retrofit for network calls. No? So retrofit naman is one of the most popular networking libraries in Android. So it simplifies making HTTP requests, handling responses, and parsing JSON. No? So retrofit allows developers to define API endpoints as Java interfaces and automatically handle network requests in the background. So let's say, for example, public space, interface space, API service. Now, then begin. Now, at get, open parenthesis, double quotation, user slash, begin, then ID, close, then tapos double quotations, then tapos close ng parenthesis, ano. Then call user, get user path, no, then ID, int user ID valid. So it means to say that Retropit, no, provides a cleaner, no, type safe and efficient way to interact with APIs, making it the preferred choice for most Android developers. So we have Vali for network requests. Ano naman ito ngayon, Doc? Vali is another networking library developed by Google for handling network operations efficiently. Unlike Retrofit, which is optimized for RESTful AI interaction, Vali is more suited for handling multiple small requests such as image loading and caching. Ano ba yung mga key features ng Vali? Request key, queuing, no, or queuing, no, and prioritization, built-in caching mechanism, synchronous and synchronous request handling, no. So Vali is lightweight and works well, no, for smaller applications that require frequent network interaction. Let's say, for example, sa Java, pwede namang string request, no, is equal to string request is equal to new string request, then open parenthesis, pwedeng request, comma, request that method that get, tapos comma, URL, comma, response, tapos minus, then yung ano natin, log.d, then response, no? So then error, for error, log.e, no? Error and error to string, no? Then request key, no? Or queue, no? Valid that new request key or context, no? And then key add string to request, no? Now we have also choosing, now maybe you're asking, Doc, how will be able to choose between Retropit and Vali? Both Retropit and Vali have their disadvantages and advantages. And the choice between them depends on the project requirements. Again, use Retropit if the application primarily interacts with REST APIs and needs automatic JSON parsing. Use Vali if the app requires frequent and lightweight network requests, such as fetching small data chunks or images. So in many cases, developers use the Retrofit, no, for API communication and combine it, Glide or Picasso, no, for efficient image loading. We have, of course, how we'll be able to handling permission for networks. Since Android 6.0, yung API level 23, applications need to request runtime permission for certain actions, including internet access. However, the internet permission is declared in the Android manifest.xml, as what we discussed during our first meeting. However, the Android manifest.xml file, and it does not require runtime approval. So uses does permission Android that has name Android.permission.enter. No? So if the app requires network state information, the following permission is also needed. Yung XML sa uses.permission Android name is equal to Android.permission.access underscore network underscore state. No? So handling permission properly properly ensures that the application functions correctly without unnecessary crashes or security vulnerabilities, no? So, how about, or how will be able to ensure the internet connectivity? Before making a network request, it's a good practice to check whether the device is connected to the internet. This prevents, no, unnecessary network failures and improve user experience, no? So, another is, if the device is offline, developers can show an error message or prompt users to enable their internet connections. Optimizing network calls for performance, no? To ensure smooth performance and avoid unnecessary API calls, we as developers should follow some best practices. Like, we need to implement caching to reduce redundant network requests. We need to use pagination for large database or for large data sets to load data efficiently. We need to implement background synchronization for real-time updates, and we need to use compression, no, like gzip, no, to reduce the size of network responses. Now, applying the optimization helps in creating a responsive and efficient application. So, it means to say that I just want to play a video presentation first. Wait. Makita. Well, it's more than okay. It's not necessary, no? Because it's too long. I'll just want to share this doon lang to ano. So to cut in short, no, networking and API integration are important and critical for modern Android application because again, understanding REST APIs, JSON parsing, and using libraries like Retrofit and Valley make it easier for us to build feature-rich applications that rely on a remote data. So additionally, no, handling permission and ensuring internet connectivity are vital for providing a seamless user experience. No? And through following some best practices, as I mentioned, you as developers can create efficient, scalable, and reliable applications that interact smoothly with our services. Okay?